What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be reacting to the official 53-man roster that this man right here, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and his staff just released for us. But initially, the Vikings made 3 roster designations, and the first main one was Dalton Risner. He was put on the short-term IR. Each NFL team was designated 2 slots on guys they can put on the IR list, and the Vikings decided to lean with Dalton Risner and Gabe Murphy, and then another move, they just kept TJ Hockenson on the PUP list. So all 3 of these guys will not be in action for at least the first 4 games of the upcoming regular season for the Vikings. But the key note here was that the Vikings decided to keep Gabe Murphy over a couple of other UDFAs that played really well in the preseason. But before we dive into the offensive depth chart, the defensive depth chart, we got week 1 versus the New York Giants just around the corner. And if you guys want your favorite football team to get a victory and start the regular season off hot, hit that thumbs up icon. Do not jinx the Vikings, as I hate calling week 1 a must-win game. But if you look at the schedule after the Giants, it gets a whole lot more challenging. So if you guys want the Vikings to win, hit that thumbs up icon. So let's start off with the quarterback room here. No big shockers here. Sam Darnold listed as QB1. Nick Mullins listed as QB2. And then Jaren Hall actually didn't make the final 53-man roster. The Vikings are keeping him there. I thought maybe they would try to have him, or try to cut him, have him clear waivers, and then bring him back on the practice squad. The front office did not want to take that risk, so they added Jaren Hall as a part of the 53-man unit. But the biggest shocker to me today came in the running back room, and it is light. You only have technically 2 running backs and a fullback in this group, with Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler going to get majority of the carries this upcoming season, and then C.J. Ham being the fullback of this group, with guys like Dwayne McBride, Myles Gaskin, and then the biggest shocker today, Kene Nwangwu ended up being cut. So obviously I do have question marks at who's going to be the main kick returner this year. Will it be Ty Chandler? I would probably give him the nod out of everybody on this roster. But the one guy I want everybody to watch out for, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. He hasn't taken a visit with the Vikings just yet. But Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin Cook took a visit with the Dallas Cowboys late last night, and clearly he has interest in getting back in the NFL. Maybe a return to Minnesota could be heading our way. Again, very unlikely, but don't be shocked if the Vikings take in Dalvin for a visit, because I am assuming they're going to make a move at that running back spot. But let's kick it to receivers here. No big shockers. I guess if you do want to take a shocker on this one, it probably would be Brandon Powell making the 53-man roster, but I thought Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, they were all locks. And then shout out to Tristan Jackson, a guy I've always been rooting for, as he was on the practice squad, called back up to the roster, then he was cut back to the practice squad. He's had a very long career here with the Vikings of being cut and then brought back on a futures contract, but he ends up making the team. Brandon Powell is also on that roster. So if you look at this Vikings 6-man wide receiver group, it's got to be up there as one of the better ones in the league. And they got 2 guys that the common NFL media member does not know about: Jalen Naylor, Tristan Jackson. Keep your eyes out on those 2 guys this season. But let's go to the tight end room here. So TJ Hockenson, like I mentioned at the top of today's show, he will be on the PUP list, missing the first 4 games. But they actually did decide to cut N'Keal Harry and kept the likes of Johnny Munt and Nick Muse. Shout out to N'Keal Harry, former first-round pick for the Vikes, for the Patriots. But also Josh Oliver, in my opinion, best run-blocking tight end in the entire National Football League. He maintains his spot on this 53-man unit. And I'm really not too worried about the Vikings having to, find production from that position group with TJ Hockenson missing time. Obviously, KOC loves Johnny Munt, as he called him the best tight end 3 in the league early on this offseason. So expect to see a lot of him and Nick Muse playing next to Josh Oliver this season before Hawk returns. Well, let's kick it to the offensive line here. No big shockers here as well, but you got the main starting 5, where it's going to go Darisaw at left tackle, Brandell at left guard, Bradbury manning the center spot. Then you got still Ed Ingram at the right guard spot, and then Brian O'Neill at the right tackle. But you got Walter Rouse, the rookie, 6th-round pick this year, Dan Feeney, Michael Juergens, and then Dalton Risner, like we mentioned. He is going to be on the short-term IR. So if Ed Ingram does struggle during the first 4 games, or Blake Brandell, I fully expect Risner to step in there and play either the left guard or the right guard spot. But when you just look at this Vikings offense as a whole, there is no doubt there is talent across the board. You got 2 really good tackles. You got a really good running back in Aaron Jones. And then you got the best non-quarterback in the National Football League in number 18, Justin Jefferson, then if Addison's ready to go, the whole success of this offense is going to come on the shoulders of Sam Darnold. In my opinion, Kevin O'Connell will solidify himself as a top 10 coach in the National Football League at the end of this season. And if he can get the most out of Darnold and maybe have him live up to somewhat of the prospect we thought he was going to be coming out of USC, the Vikings offense could be super, super successful this season. Well, I'll kick this question your guys' way. What say you on this? Will the Vikings have a top 15 offense in the National Football League this season? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down below in the comments section. Now, coming up next here, this is my favorite position group on the Vikings roster, is the defense as a whole. And we'll be diving into that here in a second. But first off, I got to give a massive shout out to one of my favorite sponsors here at Chat Sports, and that is Factor. And if you guys hit that link, factormeals.com/VikingsChat50, we will hook you guys up with $50 off your first box plus 20% off your next month. And with the football season just around the corner, I don't have a whole lot of time to make meals here when I get out of here at the office, and Factor helps me, take care of that. So fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto, and Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious and great tasting meals with Factor. And Factor's actually got 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. You'll always have new flavors to explore. So if you guys want to crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust, Factor meals is the way to go. So make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options by heading over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 and use code VikingsChat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code VikingsChat50 at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. I'll have that link for you guys in the comments and description of today's show. But big shout out to Factor for sponsoring today's edition of Vikings Now. Now let's go to the trenches to start off the defense. As again, no big shockers here as well. Actually, I take that back. One big shocker here was Jalen Redmond. I was incredibly shocked that he ended up making this 53-man roster. But you got Tillery, Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard, and then shout out to the two UDFAs, Levi Drake Rodriguez and Taki Taimani, both undrafted in this past year's draft, but they both performed their ass off during the preseason, throughout training camp and the OTA period, and they found themselves on this final 53-man roster. I cannot wait to see Levi Drake Rodriguez get out there. Number 50, the big fella, wrecking havoc for this Vikings defense as a 7th-round pick making the 53-man roster. That's pretty impressive, and it just, it speaks to how hard he works, in my opinion, in the offseason. But let's kick it to the edge department here. One of the most underrated groups in the entire National Football League. You got Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, as, Van Ginkel is a perfect scheme fit with Flores as he played some of his best football under him when he was in Miami. And then you got Patrick Jones II, Dallas Turner, Gabe Murphy does go to the short-term IR. But then also Jihad Ward, who actually, Brian Flores, he pretty much said about a week ago where that Jihad Ward would make this final roster as he was a bubble guy, heading into the last preseason game. But Flores loves him. He loves his versatility. As we know, Flores is MO. Line 7-8 guys up on the line of scrimmage, and the opposing quarterbacks just got to pick and choose who's coming. And we have versatile players like Ward, like Turner. It just is going to create havoc for an opposing team's quarterback. But the linebacker position, the big shocker here would have to be Brian Asamoah. We were hearing reports from Ben Gesseline a couple days ago that the Vikings were going to explore the trade market for Asamoah, see if they could get some late-round draft capital for him. And I would probably assume the Vikings couldn't. But you're going to keep Pace, you're going to keep Cashman, you're going to keep Grugier Hill. And I'm a big fan of this unit, but the only thing I don't like about it is there's not really any solid depth. Like, if anything were to happen to Pace or Cashman, like, you're really not feeling too confident about any of the other bench players slotting in there and getting rotational reps during the season. But I still think with Pace and Cashman, you're going to be serviceable at that linebacker position. And just shout out to Brian Flores for getting the guys that he specifically wants in this defense. But let's get a cornerback group here. And I'll tell you what, I thought this was going to be one of the worst units in the entire National Football League heading into the season. I fully take that back. Byron Murphy, Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, a solid big three there. And then shout out to another UDFA, Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas. He ended up, in my opinion, probably being Mr. Mankato during training camp and the preseason session. Then you still keep a Caleb Evans and Fabian Morrow on this roster. And, my take on the cornerback group is they're going to be serviceable. I don't think they're going to be top 12, top 10 in the National Football League. They will just be a top 15, top 20 group. And if you could get anything of what Stephon Gilmore gave the Dallas Cowboys this past season, you potentially have a cornerback one, pair him up with Byron Murphy, and you're hoping Shaq Griffin gets back to his old self. And then maybe a guy like a Caleb Evans ends up popping, or maybe Dwight McGlothern just ends up being, very impactful in year one. But overall, I'm actually feeling pretty solid about that group in comparison to how I felt a couple months ago. But probably the best group on the Vikings team as a whole, the safety position. Now, you got the three-headed monster, Cam Bynum, Harrison Smith, Josh Metellus as, in terms of finding a position for Metellus, I just put flex as he plays damn near every position on defense for the Vikes. But they did end up cutting Lewis Cine. This was expected. I was hoping the Vikings were able to find maybe a late 6th or 7th round pick for him, but they decided to keep Theo Jackson and Jay Ward. I think that was the correct move, and I wish nothing but the best for Lewis Cine. Maybe, actually, there's no chance he clears waivers, but for any reason that he does, I could see the Vikings, bringing him back to the practice squad. But, last but not least here, show some love to the special teams. Again, no shockers here. You got Will Reichard, Ryan Wright, Andrew DiPaolo. Hey, I'll give credit to Andrew DiPaolo. He's been an all-pro for the last 2 seasons, best long snapper in the league. Ryan Wright, we were hearing reports a couple of days ago that they were going to possibly bring in another punter just to increase that competition at that group. But hey, Will Reichard, hopefully he can break the kicking curse here in Minnesota as he drilled a 57-yarder in the last preseason game, and he's only missed 1 kick so far in the preseason, and it was blocked. So shout out to him there. But hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, first off, thank you guys so much. But if you guys did, give me a skull down below in the comment section, as I cannot wait for Vikings game days here on the channel. It's going to be a ton of fun. So if you guys made it all the way to the end, give me a skull down below. If you guys want more Vikings content on your Twitter or X timeline, that's the handle right there, at Pat Sieps. Give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. And thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Skol Vikes.